You and I were out shopping for art supplies when we stumbled on this kind of a prefab diorama starter kit.
Yeah, 2 walls and a floor that you can snap together and build a diorama.
Yeah, and we thought, hey, we should try this. It ought to take some work out of it.
Might speed things up.
But it didn't. Because we didn't like the window in the one wall. And we ended up having to cut our own wall.
And we had to cut 2 walls so they would snap together better.
Yeah.
But then we could get to work.
Yeah, and that involved looking at the fruit cellar scene in Psycho, studying that, and doing cardboard mock-ups of the props to get the right size.
We also slapped together some quick paper models of Mother and Lila so we could see how high to put the shelves on the wall.
I can't imagine we're spoiling anything here.
Right.
But the climactic scene in Psycho takes place in a forgotten fruit cellar that Lila Crane stumbles upon by accident. It's just a blocky room of stone and dirt filled with objects and furniture associated with fruit canning, I think.
Right, yeah.
A table, crates, there's a barrel of apples, and you took the lead making the stone slab walls of that fruit cellar.
Yeah, you were busy with another part of the project, and I figured I could handle the walls.
Yeah.
I just cut the foam, carved out the stones with the foam carving tools, roughed them up a little bit, then primed and painted them.
Yeah, and I think you did a great job.
Oh, thanks.
I'm really happy with how these walls turned out.
Good.
And what I was working on while you were making those walls was my version of Mother.
Mrs. Bates.
Yeah, she's kind of an art doll that I could pose, but with sculpted elements.
Oh, she's a real looker.
Ha! I don't like that woman, and I don't want her touching me.
One of the things that worked pretty well for us was cutting out the wall supports with a laser.
Yeah.
It was just a real time saver.
Yeah, and it helped with the precision of it.
Yeah, so we thought it would help with the rest of the props too.
And it did. So I set up the digital files for the table, the chair, and the crates, using the movie set as reference.
Yep.
And we used the laser to make the cuts, and then just glued everything together.
And I don't know if it made the whole project easier or more difficult, but the idea was to recreate this set as we're used to seeing it in the film, which meant black and white, no color.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Would it have been harder to guess what colors to make all the furniture?
Yeah, right?
Because it was also a little tricky trying to match the value scale of all the objects in the room and paint them just using different washes of black and gray.
Yeah, but there was just no way you could show that scene in color.
Nah.
It just wouldn't feel right.
Not at all.
The black and white is just creepier.
Yeah, and more classic.
Yeah.
So back to Mother.
Yeah.
I have sculpted and painted her hands, feet, and head at this point, and I gave her a pair of slippers because it's cold down there in the fruit cellar.
Yes.
And now I'm just wrapping the polyfill to keep everything in place so that I can eventually put a nice dress on her.
That woman was here earlier, snooping around your workshop. You shouldn't turn your back on that snake.
Before we started this project, I would estimate that you and I have watched Psycho, I don't know, 10, 15 times?
Yeah, at least
maybe?
that.
We caught it in a theater during one of those re-release events.
Yep.
And of course we own the DVD Blu-ray. But since we began this project, we must have doubled that number.
Doubled and then practically burned a laser hole in the Blu-ray from pausing it at that fruit cellar scene.
Yeah. You know, when I was a kid, like 10 years old,
Yeah.
Psycho was on TV late at night. I snuck out of my room to watch it, and I grabbed my dad's camera, film camera, and waited for the moment that Lila spins around Mother in the chair so that I could snap a photo and just have it.
Oh my gosh.
And for a while then, I always had this sort of blurry 4x6 glossy of Mother's corpse that I carried around with me.
That's both adorable
Yeah, right?
and disturbing.
Fair enough. Yes.
But very on brand for you.
Right?
Yes.
And it's come full circle now because since we've been working on this project, I have had a photo, well, multiple images of Mother's corpse in my camera roll. Yeah. And, I say it's for reference, but, maybe I'm a little sweet on her.
I had fun with this project.
Good. I'm glad.
But part of me is going to be really glad when it's over.
Fair enough. These rotary fabric cutters are really sharp. How sharp, you ask? Very sharp.
Yes.
I used it to cut out this fabric that we found.
Which is not exactly the fabric of her dress in the movie.
No, but it fits the mood of the piece. We both ran across it independently at the fabric store and picked it out, so it's fate.
Right.
And remember, this is my version of Mother.
Right.
So I'm using a little artistic license.
And you're using just fabric glue to put it all together.
Yeah.
Which is nice because you don't have to drag out the sewing machine or worry about stabbing yourself with any needles.
Exactly.
And the lace trim was a nice addition. Not only on Mother's wrists and neckline, but also around her legs, so it looks like she's wearing a slip or bloomers. And it's a cute
How
detail.
dare she discuss my
no one will
bloomers?
ever see.
Absolute trash, that woman. I think it's high time you got rid of her.
This is your line, V. You're doing that part about the resin?
Yeah, sorry. You picked up some tiny silicone molds for the jars and used UV resin to make them.
Yeah.
And then we added a little pigment to the same resin for the whatever that blackish goop is in those jars.
I think they're canning fruit down there.
I think.
There's that big barrel of apples, but I'm not sure anyone's been down there recently.
Right.
So I'm guessing a lot of that stuff is just moldering away in jars,
Yeah, just rotting there in the fruit cellar.
among other things.
Our fruit, of course, was made by you out of polymer clay and dropped into the black goo. And that canned fruit wasn't the only fruit you made, because you did a ton of work on those apples in the barrel.
Again, I don't know if anyone was doing any canning in the fruit cellar.
I know.
At this point in Norman's life, it's been 10 years since his mother and her lover were poisoned.
Right.
However, there's a full barrel of seemingly fresh apples in the fruit cellar next to his mother's body.
Right, so he doesn't get many guests at the motel.
No.
It's a rare occurrence. And whatever guests he gets, he generally ends up killing them and dumping them in the swamp, right?
Yeah. And he spends some of his free time stuffing birds.
Right.
So maybe hunting small game on his property.
Possibly.
And taxidermy.
Yeah, and part of the time, of course, he's dressing like his mother and having conversations with himself.
Yes.
So I guess whatever time he's got left after all of that, and eating and sleeping, he is making some of the most delicious roadside preserves in California. Bates Preserves. The barrel, by the way, was tricky to make.
It was.
But some of our Patreon tiers are going to get a video this week of how we made that barrel and the buckets and some of the other props. Now, since the fruit cellar is as cold as the grave, I made Mother a cozy shawl for her shoulders. Mother, I have something for you.
Wow, you guys are getting really close.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother. But I left it up to you, Michelle, to complete Mother's ensemble by needle felting her hair.
Yeah, the hair is sort of needle felted, but not really.
True.
Because you can't just put wool on the doll's clay head and start poking into her skull. You have to sort of shape it off the head and then attach it later on.
You hear that? You hear the way she speaks about me? Threatening to poke needles into me. If you won't get rid of her, then I will.
And on the reverse side of our black and white mini psycho scene, we built out the walls to look like flats constructed on an actual Hollywood movie set.
Yeah, and of course, since that's the real world, we rendered it in full color and left little signs of life here and there, indicating that it was a working set with living, breathing set builders and filmmakers buzzing around.
Okay, let's look at this thing.
All right.
Lights, roll camera, and action. Mrs. Bates.
And just for comparison, here's the original scene,
Okay, all right.
and here's our take.
It's not bad.
But close enough.
Yeah, and
right?
Mother looks great in there.
Well, sick old women are usually pretty sharp,
Right.
as Arbogast will tell you. Which reminds me, I wanted to show you something in the cellar.
In the workshop?
Yeah, in the workshop. In the cellar.
Oh, okay. Why are you wearing a dress?
Just never you mind. Threaten to poke me in the head with needles. I'll show you.